Well, initially, I think everyone was very nervous of what the trip will bring about because looking at Trump's election campaign, what he said, and of course his tweeters. But I think the outcome is actually much more benign. So in that sense, it gives people or markets or investors like us a little bit more comfort.
So far, so good.
So far, so good. Yes,
that's what you're saying.
right.
Okay. So market specifically, though, I know that you think that along with everybody else, it's pretty obvious by the numbers that valuations are looking a little bit stretched. Growth seems to be pretty decent, though. Still, though, you were mainly defensive.
Yes, I think markets are at a crossroad. On the one hand, valuations extremely stretched. On the other hand, growth is fairly decent. We've seen even today that there's some jittery in markets, a reflection really of the stretch valuations. So therefore, I think investors have to be very nimble in their asset allocation in terms of the strategy. I think be a bit more cautious on risk. And I think at this stage right now, it's just still too early to buy on this dip.
Okay, so what does cautious and what does defensive mean then, specifically?
Well, I think specifically you want to hold a little bit more cash so that in case opportunities pop up down the road, you can actually buy into it.
So let me ask you, average portfolio, you're telling clients cash how much?
On average, of a balanced portfolio, around 9%.
9%?
Yes.
Close to 10. Okay. In terms of dollar, I mean, one thing we've been noticing is how, I mean, we were talking about the words over tax reform 1. That's going to be very key for U.S. equities and for U.S. growth potentially as well. We've been looking at how, excuse me, the yield curve, 2s and 10s in the U.S. flattened to the thinnest I think we've seen in about a decade. Dollar hasn't been doing very well either. Longer term, what are the prospects? Well,
I think there could be a short-term dollar rally towards the year end, but longer term, 2 years, 3 years down the road, we think the dollar outlook will likely be murkier. That bull market we saw back in the last 2 years, probably it's over.
Why?
Because the thing is that in the last 2 or 3 years, the Fed's raising rate was the story in town, and they were the only major central bank on the rate hiking cycle. But now I think going to 2018, the show is not just about the Fed. You have other central banks, other major central banks on a tightening cycle as well. So other currencies on an interest rate differential would also look more interesting.